Hey YouTube, what's up? It's CS back here with another installment, and here's my review for UFC 147 Silva versus Franklin 2. Looking back on this, guys, it's definitely not a card I would pay for, but if I had to choose to pay for anything, this card or the past couple UFC on FXs, definitely this one, although it just didn't deserve to be a pay-per-view in the end, in my opinion. However, it was a pleasant surprise because those past couple UFC on FX cards, although free, were shit. Just saying. Now, what can I say about this one? Let's just jump right into it, shall we? Starting off with that 190-pound catchweight main event between Rich Franklin and Wanderlei Silva. Now, of course, this was initially supposed to be between the coaches, Vitor Belfort and Wanderlei Silva, but Vitor Belfort got hurt, so they had to bring in Rich Franklin, make a rematch between him and Wanderlei. I know Wanderlei wanted this one bad, so why not make it happen? Wanderlei Silva, pretty solid striker over his storied career. He was definitely an animal at one point, but nowadays, he's definitely the definition of a fallen fighter. His power has diminished, and his chin has diminished as well. And, he's just not as much of a killer as he once was. He lost his killer instinct, Now he thinks twice about getting countered instead of just eating it and just moving forward, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I guess you kind of have to fight like that if your chin's diminished, so you don't want another repeat of him versus Chris Lieben happen against Rich Franklin, right? So he fought a little bit more cautious in this bout, however, against Rich Franklin, who knows how to keep the distance going and hits pretty hard himself. Wanderlei had some success. He was able to find an opening in round two and do his Wanderlei thing, like a tornado, like Rich Franklin described. Wanderlei caught him in that round two with a flurry. Rich went down, and Wanderlei almost finished him with strikes, but of course, Rich was saved by the bell. Props to Rich Franklin for hanging in there and knowing how to roll out of, just getting punched in the face by a dangerous Wanderlei Silva. So, Rich knew how to defend intelligently on the ground, so, he got some respect points in my book because he actually had to face adversity, which I didn't think he would have to face against Wanderlei Silva because I thought he would just run through him. But yeah, it took a little bit longer for Rich to beat him, actually 4 more rounds longer because I thought Rich would get him in the first round. Rich beat him over the course of 5. He took 4 rounds in my books, and I think the judges all got it right in 49-46. So yeah, Rich, just continued to do more of the same from rounds 3 on. Just stick the jab out in Wanderlei Silva's face, make Wanderlei think twice about moving in, trying to land a huge combo. So yeah, Rich was just all over Wanderlei with that. Plus, if Wanderlei felt like committing and, Rich just, missed the jab or something, he would be able to counter with his, right hand. So, I don't know. Rich Franklin fought a very smart fight, kind of safe, but, it got the job done and it wasn't exactly boring. So, props to Rich Franklin for getting that win and looking, all right doing so. And Wanderlei Silva, he tried to throw on a show. They had a nice little exchange towards the end of the fight. So, yeah, that definitely put a smile on my face. It's just, as far as Wanderlei fighting relevant competition nowadays, he's done, So I just want to see him get a win and retire. I was hoping he'd retire after Kong Lee, but he didn't. I understand the guy just wants to please us. So, props to him for doing so. I know he loves this shit. So, yeah, Wanderlei Silva is still always going to be one of my favorite fighters for what he did in Pride and even what he did in UFC. Just a big ball of heart and energy and crazy striking once he gets you hurt. So yeah, Wanderlei Silva for the win, just not tonight. Rich Franklin got that 49-46. But as for who these guys should face next, I don't know. Taking a look at Rich Franklin and his potential opponents at 205, let's just say maybe him versus the winner of Brandon Vera and Shogun Rua. I don't think Shogun Rua should get an immediate match against a contender unless he beats someone other than Brandon Vera. Come on, it's just Brandon Vera. Plus, he looked horrible against what's-his-face, Dan Henderson. So, yeah, get him someone like Rich Franklin. That would be a test for Shogun Rua. As for Wanderlei Silva, again, I just want to see him win one against anyone and retire. But now let's move on to one of the TUF Brazil tournament finals. Let's start with the middleweights between Cesar Mutancha Ferreira and Serginho Moraes. Of course, Serginho is one of the best grapplers in the world. Why would you want to fuck with him on the ground, although you're a black belt like Cesar Ferreira? You're just not on the level of Serginho Moraes. So don't go to the ground with him. Cesar would always tell Serginho to stand back up if Serginho was just on his back for whatever reason. So props to Cesar for fighting a smart fight in terms of knowing where to fight. However, on the feet, Cesar should have just taken more advantage of Serginho's lackluster striking. It's just Cesar Mutanch has a solid striking background, knows his capoeira. However, he shouldn't have been trying to set that up too often. He's been training with Vitor for 8 years. I thought he should have gone with something a little bit more less risk, high reward, like a Vitor would. Just punch him in the face. Best way to beat a jiu-jitsu guy, you know what I'm saying? Just knock him down and knock him out early. You don't want to give that guy an opening whatsoever. I think that's the best way to beat a jiu-jitsu guy if you're Cesar Mutancha. Just don't overcommit with one of those capoeira kicks. You might miss with that shit. And he was trying to connect with that all day. It was obvious he was trying to set that up. And in the midst of trying to set that up, Serginho was finding himself some openings in terms of his own striking. So he was able to land some straights on Cesar Ferreira and knock him down and, put him in some adversity. So props to Serginho Moraes for trying to make a fight out of a fight that just was a bad matchup for him. So props to him for not giving up. He could have just ran or some shit like that, and he didn't. It's a horrible matchup for him, guys. Stylistically, Cesar Ferreira, more athletic striker. He's going to be able to keep it on the feet against a jiu-jitsu guy, although a great one with no wrestling. So, yeah, props to Serginho again for trying to make a fight out of nothing. But still, Cesar Mutancha just was too much here. He still did a lot of kicks from the outside and some punches here and there, and it was enough to win this at least 29-28 across the board. I had it 30-27 myself. I believe 2 judges did. So, solid win for Cesar Ferreira. What's next for him? No idea, and no idea for Serginho as well. I hope he develops his striking so it becomes one of his weapons in the future. But now let's move on to the other TUF Brazil tournament final. This was for the featherweight title, of course, between Rony Mariano Bezerra and Godofredo Pepe. Now, I didn't know Pepe's striking could look that incompetent. That was horrible. Bezerra was pretty much beating him on the feet, just getting within that reach, landing power punches, not exactly knocking him out like I thought he would have, but it was definitely decisive that Pepe was not the better fighter on the feet. Jason was just more, comfortable there, definitely more competent, landing the crisper punches. Pepe was winging his punches, and that shouldn't be characteristic of a 5'11 featherweight striker. A 5'11 featherweight fighter, definitely not a striker, but he should be. You're 5'11 in the featherweight division. Striking should be one of your strengths, Pepe. That was just despicable. So, yeah, Honey Jason for the win, for the most part, won the fight with that striking because elsewhere, Pepe was trying to get the fight to the ground, and, he was able to. He was able to pull guard and not go for subs. So I really didn't understand that. That was the other half of this fight, and it was Bezerra, for the most part, being on top of Pepe and shit not going down because Bezerra couldn't exactly extend for ground and pound, and Pepe was just hanging on for dear life. So I think Pepe was doing that to not get hit in the face, and I think he was trying to look offensive to get points, but you ain't going to when you're on the bottom and you're not going for subs. So that was kind of an ugly game plan from Pepe. He definitely needs to improve his game planning and his striking because, again, he's a 5'11 fighter in the featherweight division. He should know how to strike. As for Honey Jason right now, definitely the more polished fighter in both fighter stages of their career, so that's why he won. Definitely the more experienced guy, so it's not surprising to me to see him, deliver on this kind of stage. So props to him for winning the featherweight crown for this season of TUF. I don't know what to say. What should we see him in next, though? Like, what kind of fight? Maybe him versus Diego Brandao. Both guys are featherweight winners of TUF, and both of them are Brazilian, so why not make it happen? I think that would be cool. Maybe on a free card in Brazil in the near future. There's an idea, Joe Silva. As for Pepe, again, he needs to work on his striking, and we'll see if he can become, a featherweight mainstay in free cards in the near future. Who knows? But now let's move on from the TUF finale tip and take a look at that heavyweight matchup on the main card between Fabricio Werdum and Mike Rusow. Guys, Mike Rusow actually had his shot to win here, because on the mat, it would have been over in seconds against Fabricio Werdum, 3-time ADCC champion, one of the best grapplers in the world. Russo definitely didn't want to go there, but, Werdum wasn't interested in going there at all because he wanted to strike, show off his Muay Thai. So Mike Russo could have landed a home run, and with his inaccurate home run punches, it just was unlikely as well. And he actually got beat to the punch by Fabricio Werdum, who's not a world beater on defeat, but to see Werdum land at will with that Muay Thai, kind of scary because he's developing his other skills, because his jiu-jitsu was already something that you had to heavily worry about. So, Werdum, I think, might be a force, and I'm glad to see his striking becoming a weapon nowadays. So, solid win for Fabricio Werdum. Who do I want to see him face next? I'd like to see him maybe face Daniel Cormier. I know Daniel Cormier is still kind of locked up in Strikeforce with like 1 or 2 fights left there, but really Strikeforce has got to zip it up because these free cards and just lackluster cards in general in the UFC have been running rampant, and we need all the talent that we can get in the UFC. Although Strikeforce doesn't have a lot of talent themselves to offer, we'll certainly enjoy a Daniel Cormier in the UFC's heavyweight division, which is still thin as fuck, which is why you're still seeing Fabricio Werdum versus Mike Rusow in 2012 on a main card. It just doesn't make sense. Mike Rusow just does not share that place in the ring with Fabricio Werdum, and Fabricio Werdum exposed that. So solid win for Werdum. As for who Rusow should face, no idea. Definitely not someone in the top 15 in my opinion, because he's just not there. Maybe he has the skills to maybe become a gatekeeper. So why don't we put him up against a gatekeeper? Maybe a Joey Beltran, someone like that. But anyway, let's move on and take a look at that featherweight bout that kicked us off on the main card between Yuri Alcantara and Hakran Diaz. Guys, Hakran Diaz comes from Novo União. Ton of good fighters there. Jose Aldo, Marlon Sandro, Diego Nunez, Henry Morale to name a few. So he's going to know how to do some shit, you know what I'm saying? So he must have been a good striker. He must have been a good grappler. And he showed off some of his grappling prowess here against Alcantara. He was able to gain top position on Alcantara early and, just establish his presence from there on. Alcantara really didn't have success of trying to keep this fight standing. I thought Alcantara would be able to do a good job of just being hella active on the feet and just landing at will. But he couldn't. Hakran Diaz just beat him to the punch by getting him down to the ground before he can get hit with anything. So nice game planning from Hakran Diaz. I know he's a competent striker. It's just, why not beat Alcantara on the ground if you're not going to get submitted by him? So yeah, that's exactly what happened. Hakran Diaz was able to, survive some adversity where Alcantara was able to get that armbar, I believe, in round 2. But Hakran Diaz just got out of that and just continued just to outposition Alcantara and try to land ground pound when he could. It's just you couldn't overcommit against Alcantara because the guy's beast on the ground. So yeah, props to Hakran Diaz for doing what he had to do to win and not exactly boring the hell out of me while doing so. So yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed what I saw out of him because, how else do you beat Alcantara? Because Alcantara is just too crazy on the feet. So nice win for Hakran Diaz. What's next for him? I don't know. He's a crazy featherweight Brazilian. There's a few of those there. Maybe him versus Charles Oliveira comes to mind. I think that'll be a fun fight. I'd like to see if he can actually keep Oliveira on the mat and not get submitted by that. Oliveira's kind of crazy there, so who knows? We'll see. As for Alcantara, I don't know what's next for him. He does have some wins against some real bulls like Omagawa and Ricardo Lamas, so yeah, he's definitely not irrelevant in that division. I'm sure he'll bounce back in his next fight. But let's move on, shall we? Let's take a look at that preliminary card and run through it really fast, starting with the featherweight bout between Rodrigo Dam and Gasparzinho. Rodrigo Dam did what I thought he would, pretty much beat Gasparzinho on the feet and beat him on the ground. So yeah, nice win for Rodrigo Dam via knockdown and then rear naked choke. And surprisingly, that was your only submission on an all Brazil card for the most part. So yeah, kind of crazy how that was the only submission. Nice submission tonight though. Props to Rodrigo Dam. Next up, Massaranduba versus Peter Shumbo. Peter Shumbo paid the price, couldn't get it down to the ground, so he got exposed with Massaranduba's strikes. For Massaranduba to keep it standing against someone like Peter Shumbo was quite outstanding because Massaranduba used to fighting at 150 or 170. And he was able to keep it standing against someone like Peter Shumbo, who's just a ball of muscle. So yeah, props to him for being resilient there and using a nice takedown defense technique and eventually laying those strikes to win via TKO. So solid win for Massaranduba. Next up, catchweight bout between John Macapa and Hugo Overeem. Macapa, of course, missed weight. The added weight didn't help him though. He still lost. Wolverine was just too aggressive early and snuck by in the end via split decision. All right win for him. Next up, middleweight bout between Thiago Bodao and Leonardo Macahao. Both of these guys are pretty good guys. Bodao, he's faced a lot of adversity in his life. The guy survived cancer, I believe. Very passionate dude. Nice to see him get the TKO victory in round 3. That fight was anyone's up until then. So nice way for Thiago Bodao to get into the UFC. Nice exclamation point there. Next up, featherweight bout between Marcus Vina versus Galeto. Vina did his thing in round 3, won via TKO punches, but before that he was getting laid and preyed upon by Galeno. So solid win for Vina. And lastly, the bout that kicked us off in general, it was between Felipe Arantes and Milton Anaconda Choke Vieira. That ended in a draw. So if you guys want to tell me what happened in that fight, please do so in the comment section below, because that's the only one I missed. And there it is, guys. As for my individual fight analysis, I think that about does it. But taking a look back at this event overall, fairly exciting. Again, a pleasant surprise. Not a lot pissed me off besides Mark Goddard's early stand-ups. You guys can tell me what you guys think of that and everything else in the comment section below, please. I'll see you for UFC 148. Let's hope that card's even better. Hopefully we see another Anderson Silva triangle. This time hopefully earlier so he doesn't give me a heart attack. And yeah, hopefully it's fun collectively too. So thank you for all the support once again. Deuces for all my supporters, Bruce for all my haters, and take care.